This video is just to talk about kind of whole body flow, and this is primarily following through the sagittal plane. So again, your plane is basically this piece of paper, and the sagittal plane divides the left and the right side of your body, although it can be parallel lines depending on if we're looking at like the shoulder or the spine. And this primarily we're talking about with this general flow is how do we support the S curve of our spine, which follows that sagittal plane kind of curving down like that way. So it's the movements and the flow is either forward, backward, or up, down, or some combination of that, like shoulder moving that way, or leg moving that way, forward, backward, kind of, or swinging, or up, down relative to that plane of motion. But what we're talking about here is this idea of the flow to basically support your body as a whole, to hold yourself, to sit with good posture, decent posture, adequate posture. Doesn't have to be perfect. But you want to be able to have a sense of holding and supporting yourself up against gravity. So especially if you have a neck or back problem, you want to make sure your spine is supported so your weight doesn't come down, or also making sure that it's equally supported, like two pillars. Like if you're standing, like think of your two legs holding up both sides of your body along that sagittal plane. There's of course other factors with the other planes that help to stabilize and better align and position things, but this video is just primarily along the sagittal plane. So generally you want to think about this kind of idea of, for the body, and really extension into the legs as well, but like this flow up, it's generally up in the front through the body, okay, and then down in the back. So this is facilitated by what I call the wheels. So like your shoulder blade would be like a wheel. So imagine like when you lift your chest, you're pulling your shoulder blade back down as the chest goes up to follow that sagittal plane, which helps to facilitate better reaching and movement there, forward and up, as well as back, like winding up for a bowling motion kind of thing, like that. Legs, hips, same thing. I think of like the wheel turning here, like the pelvis turning up and then kind of flowing down in the back through the glute. Or when I'm just holding myself standing, I'm kind of grounding here, lifting up here to pull on the stomach here to lift that up from the abdominals. As I lift the chest up, I'm anchoring from those lower ribs back and down, as well as the shoulder blades down into the hips and the glutes down to my heels and the ground. So it's back and down, but it's primarily up in the front, down in the back. So I'm not collapsing like that, where it goes up in the back and then down in the front, up and over your chest. Now there's an exception to this, and that is around the head. So as we follow the chest up, well, imagine like where the collarbones are, that's where I consider like the headlights to be, or the taillights are like back by the tailbone. But when we get to that headlight area, basically it cuts back across there behind the ears. It follows this muscle known as the SCM, coming back here, big prominent muscle in the neck. And so the reason is that to stretch tall through the spine, we don't want to be like in this forward head posture or like walking around with your head lifting up like you're a Pez dispenser. When we lift up, it's like a dog picking up its pup by the scruff of the neck here, but that helps to straighten us out and it draws our head up on top of our shoulders. So as we're lifting up in the front, it does this little loop-de-loop, crisscrosses back here and comes back around, and then basically the nose, chin, not to your chest necessarily, but just to level your head so you're not like this all the time, which of course can lead to compression in here, neck problems, pain, arthritis, headaches, all kinds of stuff. So we want to stretch tall and decompress through the spine. So it's the up front loop-de-loop, and then back down, shoulder blades to the back of the lower ribs, and then the pelvis all the way down through the heels. Now it doesn't mean that you're always moving in that direction, because sometimes you do want to move in the other direction. You want to bend, reach forward like this, but your tension is generally going to be in that direction, unless this is primarily focused around the idea of holding yourself up against gravity. So there's always exceptions to that, depending on if you actually are, pushing something or bearing weight in a different kind of a way, where you're actually using leverage or some other kind of resistance. Think of like an exercise band or something where you can change the direction of the force. That may alter that flow, depending on the situation. But by and large, if we're talking about postural things, sitting, standing, you're going to follow that flow with both tension and like to lift. So it's front of the pelvis up, chest up, loop-de-loop. So back behind your ears up, nose, chin, down just to level, back through to the shoulder blades, down, lower ribs back and down, hips back and down, and kind of connect to the ground with your button over your buckle, or if you're standing, button, buckle, and down to the boots or the arches of your feet. So that's all aligned. And that should give you a pretty good sense whether you're more static postures, or even with movement, that you're keeping a steady tension in that direction, which is adaptable and adjustable. So it's not a static thing by nature, but if you're holding a static position, it's going to be relatively static. So hopefully that'll help to give some context to the idea of tensioning through your body better. And again, right side, left side, so you want to make sure that's as equal as possible, so you're not collapsing, say, like one side because one pillar isn't holding you up, that kind of thing.